All right, welcome back to Ben v. Ben. Now, I haven't seen this yet, but I'm pretty sure Ben Shapiro is going to talk about the Democrats who want to actually create change and solve our gun crisis problem. And he's just going to, instead of covering that, say they're mocking prayer. Because they want change, they have to be mocking prayer. Let's see if he's right.
Meanwhile, Democrats jumped to do the stupidest possible thing here, which is to rip on thoughts and prayers, which, again, as a religious person, prayer is not designed to make God come down and stop school shootings. That is not what prayer does.
Okay, great. So then it doesn't do anything to help the victims or to prevent the future. So prayer is not the primary thing that Republicans should be doing at this time. We agree.
No one religious believes that when you pray, that God is somehow going to stop evil people from doing evil things. That is not what prayer is for.
And Ben Shapiro knows what prayer is for, because he is the ultimate authority on religious things. And he has a direct word from God that he's right.
But because Democrats believe that government is God, they believe that when people pray, what they mean is that they don't want government to do anything, or they really should be directing their prayers at government where they can get a response, or whatever. And so they end up in the bizarre...
Yeah, do something that will create change. That's exactly what we want to happen. Instead of just praying, write those prayers down in the form of legislation and pass it so that nobody will have the opportunity to do this again.
Position after a murder during mass of saying that thoughts and prayers are useless, which, again, incredible. Thoughts and prayers, particularly prayers, are meant to uplift the hearts of the people who are suffering.
Fine, do those and pass legislation to make sure more people don't suffer. Great.
It is meant to give parents who are suffering the understanding that other human beings are with them and care about them and that they're part of a broader whole.
And we care about everyone in this country. We care about them not getting shot or killed in a mass event like this again. And there is legislation, gun control, that will prevent more tragedies like these. And right now, instead of saying, hey, let's prevent these, you're saying, hey, feel attacked because the Democrats want to prevent these. He's telling his audience that they should be defensive, that they should somehow, feel as if because the Democrats want to change the reality in America where mass shootings are so common, that that's somehow offensive to their Christianity. You can give your thoughts and prayers and call your legislator and promote rational gun control.
And that God cares about them even in their pain. That is the meaning of what prayer is about in these situations. But instead what we get is a bunch of lectures about how prayer is useless from Jacob Fry, who's busily defending the feelings of the trans community after a trans shooter murders Catholic school kids.
To be fair, you're defending the feelings. I mean, actually, I think you're making them feel attacked right now, and you're defending them from that. So you're manufacturing consent here, but your stated goal is to defend the feelings of Christians right now. So can't use that as an argument.
Here's Jacob Fry going after thoughts and prayers.
These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church.
I just want to be very clear. He's not going after thoughts and prayers. He was saying that's not going to stop more shootings. Right now, he's saying that, prayer is good. He was saying these kids were in prayer. They were doing prayer at the time. That's not saying that prayer is bad, just that we need more than it.
Okay, I promise you, if this had been a shooting at a mosque, he would not be out there ripping thoughts and prayers, particularly from Muslims. I mean, remember, this is the same Jacob Fry who was...
He didn't rip anything. Ben wants you to feel this way. He wants you to feel as if you're being attacked and you're getting stuff stolen from you. Fry didn't do any of that. He just didn't.
Kneeling and supposedly emotional at the casket of George Floyd.
Joy comes in the morning. Troubles, they don't last always.
I mean, that looks like some thoughts and prayers happening right there.
he's not, for like the 18th time, he's trying to convince you that any time you give a thought or a prayer, the Democrats hate that. Nobody's saying that. We're saying we want the shootings to stop, and that thoughts and prayers, the only response we ever get from Republicans, won't do it.
No? And meanwhile, Jen Psaki over on MSNBC, she tweeted out that, and again, this has become sort of the rote, repeated slogan, prayer is not freaking enough. Prayers does not end school shootings. Prayers do not make parents feel safe sending their kids to school. Prayers do not bring these kids back. Enough with the thoughts and prayers.
What's wrong about that? There's nothing wrong about that. That is all true. You admitted it up front. You said the same thing, that prayer won't do anything to stop this stuff. That's all she's saying.
That is not what prayer is meant to do. That is not what prayer is meant to do. Nobody is suggesting that's what is meant. But by the way, she knows that. Back in 2017, after the congressional baseball shooting, she tweeted out, thoughts and prayers with Steve Scalise, an officer shot. And thank you to members Hill staffers for your public service.
He got her there. That was a good one. I can't say anything about that. Yeah, he got her.
Jen Psaki then went on MSNBC and repeated the point.
Sorry, this is a tough one. Having your child killed while they are sitting in a pew for a morning prayer service is not what any parent should have to worry about. And I have felt a mixture of anger and a lot of anger and emotional exhaustion about this today, as I'm sure many of you have, because we have been here so many times. And yet again, like clockwork, half the politicians in our country have little more to offer than thoughts and prayers. That is all they are offering. Join all of us in praying for the victims, was Vice President J.D. Vance's response today. That's what he said. That's it. Please join me in praying for everyone involved, Trump wrote. We have seen this play out over and over again. There is a shooting, then come the thoughts and prayers, and then comes the attempt to shift the focus. This is what always happens.
And to be clear, Ben shifting the focus on like just to thoughts and prayers themselves, instead of focusing on how terrible shooting is and how we can prevent it. He wants you to focus on you feeling attacked because Democrats want to actually create change.
To shift the focus to what? Okay, let's talk about some of the solutions. So first of all, this is the game that Democrats like to play. It's the do something game.
Okay, he's going to talk about policy. Awesome. Let's get into it. Also, this is the game Democrats want to play, the do something game. These stupid Democratic politicians actually want to do something about your problems? How ridiculous.
Shouting at the wind, do something. And then they recommend invariably some sort of quote unquote solution that doesn't even remotely solve the problem. So they'll do something like claim that if we have an assault weapons ban, that will stop school shootings. It will not.
It will stop school shootings with an assault weapon, or at least make them less common. That's true. That is what would happen. And if you're going to say, well, people get them illegally, crack down on that. 95% of the illegal guns sold come from 5% of stores. We know this. We can crack down on it. We can track these ghost guns. We can ensure that cops are tracking the guns used in crimes, which they're not. So we can absolutely do that to prevent more shootings with those weapons.
They claim that if the law...
So provides no evidence against that. It just says that won't work. That's it. That was his entire argument. Nah.
Abiding gun owner are removed of your Second Amendment rights, then magically school shootings will be stopped. That of course, is...
Second Amendment is important. We got to protect it. It's in the Constitution. Now, that means that we have to protect it from stupid people who want to abuse that right. All rights can be abused. And if you leave your gun laying around where your child can access it, that's abusing it. If you're not locking it up properly, if you don't know the proper safety to use it, that's abusing it. You're abusing your right to drive a car if you don't get a license, if you don't show that you can do it safely. That's the same thing that needs to happen for guns. If you have something that can kill somebody, you need to show that you can be safe with it and that you will be. That's all we're saying. And he's saying that's going to destroy your Second Amendment right because you're not going to be allowed to do the things that you're not allowed to do anyway. That's ridiculous. Your Second Amendment right will be fine and it'll be more protected because there will be less reason to go after it when all the people who own guns are treating them safely and with respect.
It's untrue. And then they reject actual, real solutions. I've been saying for literally years that we should protect our kids the way that we protect our banks. It is an unfortunate reality that there are evil people who target children. This is why Jewish day schools, which have been long targeted for literally decades by people who don't like Jews, this is why security at Jewish day schools is a massive cost, a huge, huge cost. Multiple security guards all around campus, gates and fences and
He's right. I've worked at a lot of Jewish day schools. There's so much security. It's wild.
cameras and armed security guards. If that's what it takes to protect kids, then that's what we should have.
So that can help when there's somebody with a gun attacking them, or you can make sure it's hard to get a gun that can kill a whole elementary school. Either we can prevent the thing from happening in the first place, or we can limit the amount of damage that it does. Or, here's the wild part, we could do both. If you want to create more jobs, get more school resource officers, okay, sure, as long as they're well trained, as long as they actually interact with the students well, because I've seen school resource officers that are terrible, they're actively harmful, create more problems at the school, and there are officers who are good, who help the kids. So sure, we can do more safety in the school, but we have to do more safety outside of the school as well, because these problems don't start in the school. Mass shootings don't start in this school.
And magical thinking about snapping your fingers and all the guns disappearing is not a solution. It's not even remotely a solution. But again,
straw manning a position. Magical thinking, it's not magical thinking. It's a gun buyback. It's not allowing them to be sold. That's it. I mean, it's fairly simple.
the goal for Democrats is to posture on the basis of this. That's what Gavin Newsom in California is doing. He tweeted out that this is sick. He said, "We cannot even make it through the first week of school without mass shootings, and the GOP will continue to do absolutely nothing while our kids are being gunned down. This is sick."
To be fair, I think there have been 44 shootings this year so far.
And then you have Ilhan Omar, who, again, but all these people are proponents of the Omnicause and broad, saying the same thing.
I've never heard the Omnicause. Does that mean like the liberal agenda? I don't know.
MSNBC.
Tell me in the comments.
You know, in Minnesota, we have strong gun laws, but Indiana is not that far away from us. And so we have to recognize, as, you know, people who live in the United States, you know, a community like Minneapolis or just the state of Minnesota taking action does not prevent our neighbor from coming and harming one of our community members. And so we have to collectively think of ourselves as people who collectively reside in this country, who are impacted by the decisions that are, the lack of decisions or decisions that are made in different states, because we are in one country, and so there has to be federal laws that are introduced that safeguard life in this country. You know, Simone said something earlier that sits with me forever, which is, you know, we have this problem uniquely as a country, because the rest of the world, once they saw there might be a problem, once they got their first taste of that heartbreak of losing their children in a senseless way.
Like Australia they had a tragedy, and they did a great job ensuring there wouldn't be another tragedy. And then there were very few more tragedies.
They said no more, not again.
Okay, except for the fact that none of what she's saying is true. First of all, in this particular case.
No, wrong. Blah. No. Okay, maybe he'll provide evidence. Let's watch.
Case. This evil person obtained the guns legally, which we'll get to in just a moment.
Okay, this person, sure. So we should make it harder to obtain those guns legally, if not impossible, and then harder to obtain them illegally, hopefully impossible.
And beyond that, again, this idea that mass shootings are unique to the United States is not true. John Lott has done excellent work on this over the crime prevention.
The extent to which mass shootings happen is unique to the United States. We have a higher homicide rate than any other developed country because of that. No other country has the number of mass shootings that we do. It's like one of the things that we're known for at this point.
Research center showing the United States trails a lot of other advanced nations, actually, in mass shooting frequency and death rate, ranging from Norway to Serbia to France to Macedonia to Albania to Slovakia to Switzerland to Finland to Belgium. There are a bunch of places that have mass shootings. And again,
what? That we're worse than Denmark in mass I'm going to look this up. countries by mass shootings per capita. Blah, 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 blah. Wow, the United States is by far the worst. Obviously, of course. What is he talking about?
Shootings are actually not a very good proxy for crime in general, because
we're not talking about crime in general. We're talking about this specific crime.
Picking a subset of shootings. And again, the kinds of shootings the left does not want to talk about are the ones happening in Washington, D.C. every weekend when the National Guard isn't there, or in Chicago.
This has nothing to do with that. And sure, let's stop those crimes. How do we do that? By proper gun control, by proper gun safety, and by investing in communities so that there are fewer impoverished people who are more likely to do crime. That's how you solve crime, by solving poverty, by investing in people, by investing in communities. And if Ben Shapiro is going to go on wild tangents that have nothing to do with it, so am I. He doesn't care about actually helping people, about actually saving lives. He just has this political agenda to push. And he'll connect random things to this issue. He'll make you feel attacked because Democrats want to make change. And then he won't actually give reasons why the change they're promoting is bad. Because it's good. Ensuring that people with something that can kill somebody are properly trained on how to use it is a good thing. That's it. Because we just don't want people randomly dying.
Okay, but here would be some actual solutions. One of those solutions might have been elevated security at religious schools, particularly in the aftermath.
Okay, that security can only limit the amount of damage done. If somebody's going there with a gun, they're going there to kill people. They're just going to kill fewer people.
Of the Covenant school shooting in Nashville. Let's say, for example, that state legislators in Minnesota had gone to Governor Tim Walz at that time and said, you know what we need? Extra security at our Catholic schools. And Tim Walz had done nothing. That's precisely what happened. According to the Daily Wire, 2 years before a shooter opened fire on students attending daily mass in Minneapolis, the leaders of independent and Catholic schools in Minnesota begged Democrat Governor Tim Walz for help securing their schools. According to a 2023 letter reviewed by the Daily Wire, the funding was never authorized. In a letter...
Okay, but we can say the same thing about Democrats wanting these guns that are used in these mass shootings to be banned. That should have happened. That would have stopped this. Now, yeah, Walz obviously should have upped security at this school. Of course, that would have been the right thing to do. And it would have been inefficient for the rest of the schools that didn't have this happen to them. And Ben Shapiro would be arguing that government efficiency and canceling any programs that just might help somebody is a good thing to do. And that the only programs we should keep are the ones that give us profit. That's what he's been saying by supporting Doge and Elon Musk. He doesn't. He's not consistent with his belief. And he doesn't actually support policies that'll help people. All that could do is limit the damage done. And we see at a lot of schools where they do have increased security, where the police show up, that they're still not able to take them down.
Dated April 14th, 2023, that specifically addressed school safety in non-public schools. Tim Benz, president of Mindependent, and Jason Adkins.
Also, he wants more public money going to private schools. He wants the taxpayer to pay for rich people's education. Just saying.
Executive director of the Minnesota Catholic Conference, stressed an urgent and critical need in Minnesota to make sure our schools are secure and safe in light of recent and continuing attacks on our schools in this country and in our state. The letter tried to get security on behalf of not just Catholic schools, but independent Jewish, Christian, and Muslim non-public schools within the state of Minnesota. They wrote in their letter, the latest school shooting at a non-public Christian school in Tennessee sadly confirms what we already know. Our schools are under attack. In Minnesota, non-public schools, particularly our Jewish and Muslim schools, have experienced increased levels of threats, all of which we must take very seriously. The tragedy from last week at Covenant School shows we must never allow to happen again what happened there in Minnesota or in our country. We need to ensure that all our schools have the resources to respond to and prevent those.
Yeah, so Ben Shapiro will agree with this, that we can't allow this to ever happen again. And he'll agree with it up to the point where he can, further hire more police officers, but he won't agree to it to where he'll limit the ridiculously deadly guns that can be sold in America. He doesn't care about stopping children from dying like I do, which is why I'm okay with hiring more school resource officers and doing the thing that will just stop these shootings. Ben Shapiro only wants to benefit police officers and gun corporations and not actually stop killings.
those attacks from happening in our schools. And they asked for the Minnesota legislature to enact his budget recommendation of $50 million to establish the Building and Cybersecurity Grant Program, and that it include eligible funding for charter schools and non-public schools. No additional security was ever funded, even though the money had already been allocated, apparently. But Minnesota was very focused on making itself a transgender sanctuary state with presumably
What does that have to do with any...
state funding for the transing of the children. Well, that's all for now.
He actually just said the transing of the children. That's a joke that I make about how Republicans talk, and he actually said the transing of the children. Maybe he just triggered me. Maybe he got the lib me, but he's also just saying that. He is saying it, and that's ridiculous. So was every single thing he said during that video. No Democrat attacked people for saying thoughts and prayers. They only said we need to actually create change in this country. Ben Shapiro didn't actually cite any reason why the Democrats' change was bad. And then he gave things that would partially help, not solve the problem, while rejecting anything that would solve the problem. So, I don't know, 2 out of 10.